COVID horror is becoming a subgenre now. Let's talk about it. Hey there, creepy peeps. I'm Nightmare Maven and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I talk about horror movies, books, other spooky things all year round, so if you end up liking this video, maybe subscribe. Directed by John Hyams, Sick follows friends Parker and Miri who are riding out the pandemic lockdown at Parker's parents' cabin when a masked intruder breaks in and terrorizes them. So this movie is co-written by Caitlin Crabb and Kevin Williamson, the latter of which definitely left his mark on the film. From the cold open, I was getting big Scream vibes. So I knew at that point I was in for something I was going to enjoy, and it did not disappoint. Sick has the self-aware, snappy feel that Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer evokes, plus a lot of brutality. If we're talking about this movie as a commentary on the pandemic, the violence alone certainly reflects that. There is something just like super angry and desperate about the violence in the movie. It just felt appropriate for the overall message. So the film takes place in the spring of 2020, right when lockdowns were just starting and people in some parts of the United States started to take the pandemic seriously. But there were a lot of people who weren't. And that's kind of the vibe we're getting at the start of the movie, especially with our main character, Parker. That's just the vibe we start the movie off with, especially with a killer who is specifically targeting people who are self-isolating. And self-isolating and quarantining was something that kept so many people safe in real life during the pandemic, but when a killer is on the loose is maybe not the best thing. So writers Williamson and Crabb definitely decided they were gonna rewrite the slasher rules with this one. Our two leads, Parker and Miri, like as an audience, we're judging them on something other than the tired slasher tropes of like, they have premarital sex, they're doing drugs, they're drinking alcohol. Instead, we end up judging Parker's like blasé attitude toward the pandemic, which is definitely easy for us to do in hindsight. But we also kind of judge Miri for not making sure that Parker is like actually tested negative before she decides to go isolate with her. But it's a different kind of moralism than we're used to seeing in slasher movies, and it was super interesting to see it play out. Other than their first pandemic related blunders, Parker and Miri are actually super capable characters. When it gets to the point where they realize they're under attack from this masked man, they make a lot of smart decisions, which even after the reveal of the killer and their motives, made for a tense watch because I ultimately ended up wanting them to survive. They were making so many right choices. Regarding the characters of Parker and Miri, Kevin Williamson told Sci-Fi, "These girls fight back. They're very strong and they don't make dumb decisions. They want to live, they want to survive," which is another subtext to the whole thing, which is if we rely on each other, we will get through this. That's the bigger message of COVID as a community. So without giving away spoilers, I definitely got that message that like working together as a community is what's going to get us through the pandemic. And also this movie, or at the very least, it would have made going through this horrible thing that happened maybe even just slightly less traumatic than it already was, at least in the United States. But the killer's motives add another important element of the pandemic, which is people fighting each other. So rather than trying to stay safe and trying to keep everybody else safe, we argued over masking, we argued over social distancing, and then later on we argued over vaccines, and everything and anything in between we argued over instead of just coming together as a community. And this movie really reflects that. It becomes more apparent when you find out who the killer is. Again, I'm not gonna spoil that, but that's what I found so clever about this movie. Parker and Miri start out thinking the only thing that they have to survive is this pandemic, right? The only thing they have to worry about is not getting sick, but it turns out they have to worry about person that is coming after them and actively trying to kill them also. Overall, I liked Sick. I thought it was clever, bloody. It was a lot of fun, actually, even though it was kind of like reliving just the traumatic experience of going through the pandemic in 2020. And when we have enough like quarantine COVID horror movies for me to make a ranked list, I feel like Sick will probably be somewhere near the top. If you've seen Sick, let me know in the comments what you thought about it, or if you end up going to watch it after this video, come back and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here, become a creepy peep today, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.